Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Lions Den Podcast. It's episode 102. Monday called Monday Night Football, as Leon will play on a Monday night. So that's why we were potting ahead of time as Liga MX returns after a long international break. We are just ready to see La Fiera back in action. If you guys are listening us via YouTube and Periscope, Twitter, thank you for joining. Join the conversation. We'll definitely put your comments up on the screen. Tonight, me and Louie holding down the fort. Louie, how are you feeling tonight?
Doing well. Thankfully, the international break is mercifully over. It's not that I don't get some enjoyment out of it. Plenty of World Cup qualifiers, especially when it's World Cup qualifiers and there's something on the line, and every game means something. And my selección, which is different from your selección, did well enough in the window, but I just don't get up for those games the same way that I do for Club León. And I was worried, was I even going to remember what happened in that game against Pachuca? Because it was so long ago.
So long ago, yeah.
It feels like
fresh.
Was I going to even be able to recap it? It feels like an eternity has passed since they played that game. Then I thought about it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Mosquera, that unexpected Mosquera goal to open things up, and yes. only his third that I remember as a member of the team." In all the years he's been with the team, which is going on 5 years now. And I think that's only the third one. I remember the other two very distinctly, but I think that was only the third one. So, and also the only one that wasn't like a cheap garbage goal, he actually drove in and took a shot,
Because it was that. What was it? Was it the game against Monterrey where it was
where we drew at the very last minute.
Yes.
2-2, and he didn't know anything about that ball. It just kind of fell. It just kind of came off of him.
Yeah.
And then against Tigres in Liguilla in a quarterfinal where he got a rebound and put it back in. That was a little more intentional, but still it was kind of a trash goal. But this one was definitely not. This one he got to show his winger skills a little bit.
I mean, I feel like you said, he really has 3 goals. Each one of them are memorable in a different way. So that's how we know Mosquera goals are just not any type of goals per se.
Well, that's the advantage of scoring so infrequently. When you do score, the fans are going to remember it.
Definitely. So especially that one coming out. I mean, you're right. It's been a long couple of weeks with our respective international teams. Very, very distinct espectaculos, which we're not going to get into because it's a podcast.
there's plenty of people who talk about that.
Definitely. Yeah. But you're right. Definitely a refresher of what happened that game. As like you had mentioned last podcast, February is going to be a lot of games, especially with CCL starting. So definitely a lot of action of La Fiera coming. So to refresh, the Leon versus Pachuca game. Starting lineup, we had Cota, Mosquera, Barreiro, Tecillo, Osby, Jefecito, Luis Montes, Chavito Montes starting again, Mena, Meneses, Federico, and Davila. So obviously important to mention that Meneses returned after serving his game suspensions for that final that we don't really talk about. But yeah, so to start off, Louis, what did you think of Mosquera off the bat? I mean, just banging one in there.
Well, my first thought was que les cuesta come out strong and attacking so early on in the game. They're built to do that, and for whatever reason they don't, whether they're instructed not to or they just struggle in first halves just to really set the tone. And I was surprised that it was Mosquera who put it away, but I screamed why can't you do this all the time? Come out at home against a team that has started off the season well, but on paper still a weaker side, and set the tone. And finally, they did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally. Also to mention, La Fiera went out there with the third kit. Louis, your thoughts on the third kit?
In person, I thought it looked a little bit snazzier than in the pictures, even though it has all the publicity. But as we know, that's how I like to see the kits.
Yes.
I'm still working on. I'm talking to my people as if I really had people, but I'm trying to talk to my people about getting my hands on one with publicidad. I still haven't gotten it yet, but I'm trying because I appreciate how the initiative they're doing, and it's a homage to Triple A Lucha Libre and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And you want to be able to see the design on the kit more than the publicidad. But at the end of the day, it's a kit that they're using to play in the games on the pitch. And if I'm going to own one, I want it to be one that looks like the ones they use on the pitch. So yeah, still waiting on that. But they apparently broke a maldición because it seemed like every other Charlie team that had used their Lucha Libre kit for the first time, that had estrenado su Lucha Libre kit, they hadn't won. And so León was the only team that had debuted their Lucha Libre kit to actually win the first match using it. So weird, useless stat, but maybe it's a harbinger of good things to come using that kit. That's all I can say.
Definitely. I've seen it in person. It's very bright. But obviously, I think with third kits, it's always fun. You want to see something different, something very alternative. What I do appreciate is that the cement dude looks a little bit better because of, it's kind of black in the back. So it kind of just goes, it's not just like pure white stands out. So I really,
Yeah, well, when I saw the leaked images of what it would look like, the jugador version that they would use on the pitch, and I saw that it was that way with the white Cementos Fortaleza, I was like, this can't be real. I would not imagine that Cementos Fortaleza would allow their logo to be altered in that way
yeah.
on the kit, because there's been other times, like I think there was a discussion, like I don't think it was the Charlie ones. I think it was maybe the last Pirma ones, but they had
Mhm.
tried to convince Cementos Fortaleza to allow a monochrome logo on the kit so that it wouldn't be so clashing with the color scheme
Yes.
of our color scheme, and that Cementos Fortaleza was not in agreement with that. Like they would retire their sponsorship unless the logo was the full color. So I was
Yes.
very surprised that they allowed that. I mean, I guess it's enough kits that they have the full color one on that they can make an exception for one that's probably not going to be used all that much. But still, like, yes, I agree. The monochrome Cementos Fortaleza guy is much, much better.
Much better presentation than
Yeah.
obviously my background's blurred, but you know what he looks like normally.
Yeah.
So at the halftime, after Mosquera's goal, obviously we saw Angel Mena come off injured. I don't think I've seen anything out there, right? Anything that was
No,
serious.
he walked off under his own power, and he wasn't even really limping. I think it was just a calambre, it was just a cramp. I think, and then he was seen a couple days later in the fair. No problems. So I think I expect him to be fully fit. That's the good thing about having some injured players right before an international break, is you have more time to get them back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've seen lots of stuff about Angel Mena too, like training. I mean, he looks to be doing okay. Obviously, he didn't see any minutes for Ecuador
Yeah.
in this window, but I'm hoping that was just more precautionary than anything. I'm hoping maybe he could even possibly be ready to get some minutes against Cruz Azul. I mean, if there's any team you want to see him play against, it is Cruz Azul.
Mhm.
I'm not holding my breath, but I mean, it would be nice, So you're saying there's a chance, I think maybe he could possibly see some time, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Also to mention, we had an own goal before the halftime.
We did. Leon scored all 3 goals in the match. If you want to look at it,
Unfortunately, at the
if you
CO
want to
one.
look at it in that way, like, yeah, such an unnecessary one too. He's usually better about that. I mean, he knows where he is on the pitch. He knows which balls to get a touch on and which balls to avoid. And yeah, that was on the other side of the pitch from my seat, so I couldn't really exactly see what had happened in the moment. But then watching it on replay, I was like, that could have been avoided.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it ended up not mattering. That was the good thing. It would be nice to get a clean sheet in one of these games. Leon's not great at getting clean sheets lately.
No, despite how Gota has just been killing it out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Well, that is to say, we've only allowed one goal each of our first three matches, and haven't allowed more than one goal in a match, I guess, since the first leg of the final, which was a 3-2 win anyway. So, yeah, I mean, they're pretty good about not letting in more than one, but it would be nice to get a clean sheet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Obviously, then we had the goal of Davila set up by Osvi. I mean, Osvi always we and Louis always go, criticize how we kind of are a bit harsh on Osvi, but for a reason. He kind of, in limbo most of the time, but credit to him on that assist. And obviously Davila, our showstopper that's always been there, especially this past season.
Yeah, Osby's just so hit and miss. He'll
Mhm.
have an occasional moment of brilliance, which this definitely was. A great, great, great assist. It's a really, really pretty play. And props to Davila for being able to finish in that way. I mean, like finish like the target striker that they're trying to force him to be, but he probably really isn't. But I don't know. I think every time he kind of seems to expand his repertoire of ways to score. I think maybe he kind of is turning into that, evolving into that player that Leon kind of out of necessity needs him to be. I mean, unless Ormeño is going to have this massive in-season development and show us things that he hasn't really shown us as a member of Club Leon. But if that's not going to be the case, then they really need Davila to score in multiple ways. And he's on some kind of streak right now. Scoring in all kinds of ways, being dangerous. I mean, he's not particularly tall. You don't expect him to have that much of an aerial game, but for him to get to that ball and put it away like that, very impressive. And props to Osby for making that play. He had to come off with an injury that later, I guess, wasn't serious, but then he went to Jamaica and got COVID, so
Yeah.
and couldn't leave the country.
Yeah.
and not that he'd been taken into consideration by Tata anyway, I don't think. But I mean, he's just kind of there along for the ride, like Kota, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes.
But
I feel like with Osby, I mean, we kind of know when. I mean, most of the time it's not that serious. I think he's just a very delicate player that I guess with the history of his injury. I mean, we know it's not that serious when he gets off injured like that. So
yeah.
So we did see Ormeño with minutes. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are they running out of patience with Ormeño? I mean,
well, I don't know. He's such an odd case. He came on against Xolos in Jornada 2, technically. And he came on and played only about 10 minutes, but looked better in those 10 minutes than pretty much anyone else on the pitch had all night. And we're like, okay, the dude's ready. Give him a chance. And then you give him a chance to start. And when you give him a chance to start, he just kind of he disappoints. I don't know. It seems like his heart's not in it. Like, oh, now I got to come in and actually play 90 minutes and play an intense game for 90 minutes. And maybe he's just not that guy for us. I don't know. I wish that he would be, because the ability is definitely there. What he did with Puebla was not an illusion. I don't know if it's just not. Maybe Holland's system isn't working for him, or maybe I don't know what it is. But when he gets a start, he's not getting the job done.
yeah.
But you can't. You got to give him more than 10 minutes if you're going to give him a super sub role. I mean, I think he could be a good super sub given what we just discussed, but you got to give him more than 10 minutes. I mean, make him your first guy off the bench. Make him what Gigliotti was.
Yes, exactly. I think that's the best way to put it. Make him the Gigliotti option that he was for Olan last season.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I've always been uneasy with, Leon, with Ormeño. Maybe it was kind of like, has one great season, obviously kind of like the shiny new toy, wants to get it. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't want him to be like another Nico Sosa situation. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't score goals, but he does well off the ball. He does well to add to the team. And obviously, I think looking at partes minutos, but obviously, like you had mentioned, like that intensity, that hunger, and I don't see it as much.
Well, I mean, I think he's used to being a traditional target man, a first option, and Leverkusen doesn't really play that way. They just have too many options. They build a play, and they build an attack, and whoever happens to get on the end of it is the one who scores. And I just don't think he's used to playing that way. So he rushes. He gets a little hasty whenever the ball does come to him. You know, and he doesn't. I mean, he's not great at. We're a fluid offense that tries to get everybody involved and involves each other, right? And unselfish. That's the best way we function. Always have. I mean, since in the Ambris era when this team was constructed, and I just don't know if that's. That's the style best suited to his game. Mm-hmm. Which is why I think, I mean, at this point, I'm pretty resigned to the fact that his best role is probably going to be as a sub. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you just absolutely need to come in and feed somebody the ball and try to get a score, I think that might be his best bet. But I think it could also just be as simple as getting the monkey off his back and not having a league goal with the club yet. Once he gets one.
It's that confidence.
There's nothing. I don't think confidence goes farther in any sport than a goal scorer who hasn't scored getting that first goal and getting that monkey off his back. I think he really, really needs that. And I'm not going to say that's going to cure everything for him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Gigliotti went for long stretches without scoring and then finally got one. And we're like, okay, unleash the beast, watch out because here comes Gigliotti, and then he would go another 5 or 6 matches without scoring. But still, I want to see how the guy looks after he gets that first one, even if it's just a cheap trash goal, just a rebote or a ball that happens to fall right in front of him on a set piece, something like that. Anything. He needs to get that, and I think once he does, we might see a different Ormeño.
I think, like we mentioned, with CCL coming up, obviously there's more opportunities for him to get more minutes or to even start in those games or vice versa with Liga. So I guess we're just going to wait and see game by game, take it with Ormeño.
Yeah, I'd love to see him start in Guatemala City and get a hat trick. Get a hat trick against Guastatoya side that just can't keep up with him. That would be great. He has some goals in Leagues Cup, and we thought that maybe that would help him get going, and it never really did, at least on a league play. But CCL is a different beast, so I could hope maybe to see him get big minutes there, and maybe play a little freer and easier and get those scores because he really needs.
Yeah, he does. He sure does. Also, let's switch a little bit, kind of talking about next game. Obviously for the game versus Pachuca, we didn't have Barreiro because he got injured with Xolos. Then obviously Colombato is out with COVID, so we didn't have him for this game. So now looking into Monday's game, we're getting a lot of players back, right? Colombato's back.
We did have Barreiro, didn't we not? Did we not?
I thought we did.
I believe Barreiro did not miss any time.
Let me look. No, you're right. See, It's been so long ago.
Yeah. No, I was amazed. That he started, but Barreiro missed no time because his injury looked. I don't know. I mean, it looked scary. I mean, not serious. It's impossible to know how serious these things are, but it looked scary when it happened.
Especially with that, we're all traumatized playing in Xolos, right?
But no, he played against Atlas a few days later, as I recall, and against Pachuca. Yeah, but missing Colombato, obviously. Meneses coming back off the bench. Yeah, against Cruz Azul, what I'm reading is Holland might expect to have his full roster, full complement of players available. Hopefully, maybe also including Mena, like I said before. Maybe not as a starter, but able to log some minutes. That would be nice. Yeah, because they kind of limped out of the gates, didn't have a full squad available against Xolos or Atlas, and luckily they've gotten results in all 3 matches, not the results we necessarily wanted, but they've gotten results. So you just kind of have to wade through this first part of the season and until you get into your rhythm. And I think considering the absences they've had, they've done a pretty good job of that.
Definitely.
And now, hopefully, with a full complement of players, they can really get going. Also, it's kind of a weird moment just when things are getting going to have a FIFA break. I'm sure a lot of teams would have just preferred to keep playing and build on the rhythm they already had kind of started to generate. But I think in Leon's case, it was a good moment for a break. They could get some players back, and because they did not get much rest between that final and when they had to play again.
Yeah.
Yes, they got an extra week, but it was not a lot of time. They did not have much of a preseason. So I think for them, this 2-week break, as much as it's annoying for us that we have to wait so long between matches to see them play, but I think for them and their legs and getting everybody healthy, it was probably very much needed.
Definitely. So yes, Louis corrected me. Barreiro definitely had played. So what I was getting at as well is obviously Colambato returns and the Fiera new addition of Gary Kakel.
Yeah.
So
I heard him pronounce his own name, and it is Kagelmacher. Kagelmacher.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need to write it down or something to get the pronunciation right.
Yeah.
But with his addition, now what do you think we're gonna see as a lineup for next game? Are we gonna see him start? Are we not? Are we gonna, he's gonna not play next game? Are we gonna see Santi back? Are we gonna see you know what I mean? We have a lot, like you said, we have a lot of players coming back, especially from international break and a little minor recovery for injuries. I mean, this is where it gets good.
It's interesting. Normally, a short notice fichaje, you wouldn't necessarily expect to see him play in his first available game, but it's been long enough that since he arrived in León and has started training at La Esmeralda, that I don't think it could be too far-fetched that we do see him play and even start. The question is, where are they going to play him? Are they going to play him on the right, or are they going to play him in the middle? And
that's true.
And who would he slot in for? That's the big question too. Would he slot in on the right instead of Mosquera? I don't know how you can bench Mosquera. I mean, if Mosquera is fit, I don't know how you can bench him after that last game that he had.
I mean, I have definitely seen improvements of Mosquera. Obviously, he has his games. I think let's try it. You know what I mean? Let's try maybe seeing Gary on the right.
So you keep the center back pairing of Tecillo and Barreiro.
Yes.
And you play Kagelmacher on the right.
Yes.
I too think that is most likely. I only wonder, when Holland first started, Barreiro was not his first option at the right center back position. Something interesting to note. Ramiro Gonzalez, who's no longer with the team, started out as his titular in that position, but then got injured fairly early on in the season, and then through attrition, Barreiro kind of got that spot back. But I mean, who knows if Holland has another viable option, if he would maybe slot in Gary at the right center back position and leave Barreiro on the bench. I don't know. I don't think at this point that's what he would do. I think the other possibility is more likely.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not going to be one, it would be the other.
Yeah. So next question. Obviously, we had talked about Chapo Montes and obviously how he hasn't been as solid coming back. I think Carlos had mentioned about benching him because Omar would definitely do better. What are your thoughts now after that Pachuca game? And would you start Chapo Montes next game, or are we just going to bench Chapo Montes? Just go ahead and start off with Omar fit.
I think Chapo has earned the right to play himself into form.
Mm-hmm.
He has not looked good.
Yeah.
He's looked sluggish. His touch has failed him. His ball control has failed him. I don't know how many times we've lamented, basically shouted into our group chat how many times he gets dispossessed, which is so unlike him. Um, and Father Time is the only uh, box to box midfielder that's undefeated. You know,
Yes.
the only the you know, but I give him a couple more weeks to play himself into form, at least a little bit better form than he's on now. Because I say that only because it was not that long ago that he had maybe the best season of his career. Like if it had been a gradual decline,
Mm-hmm.
steady decline over the last few seasons, but that's really not what it's been. I mean, he's gotten better with age, and
Yeah.
I think the season of the Octava was his best season as a professional, and it had absolutely no right to be. I mean, it's kind of against all odds that it was. I mean, and he's not that. He shouldn't be in that different of a place right now than he was then.
Yeah.
So I think you give him a little bit more time to play himself back into form. I'm not saying, you talk to me in 4 or 5 jornadas más, and if he's still playing like this, it might be time to make a change. It might be time to hand the keys over to Omarcito. Although, I mean, he's just getting himself back into form too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like you got this weapon on the bench ready to go, like ready to take all of his touches and just destroy. Because I don't think Omarcito's quite there yet. He hasn't looked as sharp as we know he can be. But again, talk to me in 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll see where they both are. And at that point, it might be time to have Chapo be a super sub again.
Definitely. And I think with Omar Fed, I mean, we still haven't seen him play completely full 90 minutes. So definitely questions for Olan, like, is, you have him in a starting lineup, but then you don't let him finish. So it's kind of like that, I guess Chapo, Omar, who's in the best form. Obviously, you have, like you mentioned, a player that has done fantastic, that has aged like wine, as we, will not shut up about. Then you have Omar, who obviously did great with Puebla, directly kind of merged himself in with Leon. So it's kind of that. I think we're always going to go back and forth. Shout out to Israel Romo from TUDN. He actually commented saying that Mena's injured. Big shout out to him because shouted us out during the Leon Pachuca game. So thank you so much. But he's confirming that Mena's injured. So I'm guessing we won't.
Well, that changes things. Maybe we don't have to have the Omar Chapo conversation. Maybe they'll both be out there. Or, I mean, they're both kind of left side minded players. Mm-hmm. So I don't necessarily think that would be the switch, but that's one option less, or one player less on the pitch that you have to compete with minutes for. I mean, I think as long as Mena's out, they'll both be in consideration for taking up some of those minutes.
Yeah. Or, I mean, the Meneses and Federico, which we've seen how they kind of just intertwine on the wings. I mean, I really am liking what I'm seeing from Federico. I think the first game he had was better than this past game. But I'm excited to see, what more of him. I think he's a very exciting, hungry player. So I'm having good thoughts about him.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I like what I've seen from him as well. You have options. I mean, that's the wings and the attacking midfield. We have options there. That's where we have a plethora of options. It's the defensive midfield on back where it gets a little dicey, but hopefully Gary comes in and eases some of that concern for us. Hopefully he can stay healthy, and hopefully he can show us what he's got. I mean, judging by his highlights, again, they only show you the good stuff.
Yes.
But he seems like a player with pace, with good attacking instincts, which, I mean, if you get that from a center back, that's incredible. I'm really interested to see how he slots in. But up front, I'm not concerned. I mean, we have hopefully Elias can get himself into a little bit better form too. He hasn't looked that great. He was a little bit hit or miss last season, but he was more hit than miss. And if we can get him back to where he was for us last season, I think that will be great for the team.
Definitely. And also to mention, we did see Fidel Ambris rack up a couple of minutes. But we've always kind of pushed for some of these youngsters to push through. So we definitely saw him get a couple of minutes in.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's the one I would most trust with big minutes at this
mhm,
point. I mean, he's getting more experienced and growing. He was just the captain for the Sub-20
mhm.
in their recent fixtures. So, I mean, there are folks out there who trust in his abilities for sure, and his ability to handle a moment, the big moment of getting big minutes for the first team. So, yeah, I mean, he's I like Jefecito. If you look, Jefecito's had really good stats this season in terms of like
It's kind of been
completing
going under the
passes
radar. He's been
and
doing good.
possession. I mean,
Mhm.
I still don't always. The eye test with him doesn't always convince me. Still, I think there are
Really?
moments where he could. Yeah,
This season, I'm not, because we always have something to say. It's either like Cavito's doing really good or really bad. But
mhm.
I have nothing to say about him. I think compared to last season, I feel like this season he's slowly recovering his level that we know he's had in the past.
I don't know. I think he's always in there with Chapo. They're very very close together, and I think sometimes that Chapo getting dispossessed, he catches it's a little contagious, and it gets over to get to Hefecito a little bit. I don't know. He is having a good season statistically,
Hmm.
and I mean I don't think you don't just sub him out one for one for Fidel, but I could see Fidel getting. It's nice to know we have that option, another pure contención, but also obviously has some attacking capabilities as well.
Definitely. So looking into this upcoming jornada, starts off no Friday games. So Saturday starts off with Necaxa Pachuca, America San Luis, Juarez Chivas, which I think I saw a tweet that they're kind of keeping an eye on it because I'm in Texas. In Texas, we're having winter storms and all that, really, really cold temperatures.
Oh yeah, I saw there was a winter storm in Ciudad Juarez
Mhm.
today, which I was like, that happens there.
All of Texas, Louis. All of Texas. Everything got canceled. School got canceled. Everybody working from home today. So I did see a tweet like an hour before, before we started, saying how they're going to keep an eye on it for low temperatures. So we don't know if it's going to fully take place or not, depending on how that weather looks.
Hey, I mean, USA Honduras just played in Minnesota.
True. True.
There was no snow though.
No snow.
Yeah, I
So
don't
we
know.
keep
They
an eye
play
on.
MLS. They play MLS games all the time in the snow. The Timbers played a match in Colorado a couple years ago. The entire pitch was covered in snow.
That's
They
not
used it.
typical in Liga MX.
They
It's
used
not
it. They
sunny
used it
and
like a bright neon orange ball so that you could see it. Yeah,
maybe that's what they should do that game instead of
yeah.
canceling it. Also Saturday night, Cholos Pumas. Sunday, Querétaro Puebla. Atlas Santos and Tigres Mazatlan. And obviously to end the jornada, León versus Cruz Azul on a Monday night football. Louis, you will be attending.
Yes, I will be there.
You will be attending. So because after León, after that match, plays Pumas on Sunday,
Yep,
correct? And then CCL midweek.
correct.
So, and we play away. Also, that we play Sunday.
We
Then we
play Sunday away to
play
Pumas.
mhm, away.
Wednesday in Guatemala City, and Saturday back home against Chivas.
Come back home. It's always Chivas in between
It's
those,
always Chivas. It's always Chivas after an international match
or doble jornada or
or
something.
doble jornada. So they always not like this will be the second time that it's happened after an international match when we had to play midweek and they didn't. So they've gotten a couple of cheap wins against us that way, and then they think that like that there's something to brag about, and I'm like, yeah, at least we're in an international tournament, you know.
I mean, it's crazy because it's pretty much like after the 13th, so February 13th, then the 16th, then the 19th, then the 22nd, we play back home CCL, then away the 25th. It's like just back to back to back to back with like 3 days in between. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, I'd love for us to put the series against Guastatoya away in Guatemala so that we don't have to give everybody big minutes in the return leg.
Yeah.
That would be really nice, especially because I will be in attendance. So I would love for them to score 6 goals in Guatemala. I have no idea what that atmosphere is going to be like because the team, Guastatoya, is actually from a small provincial town about an hour and a half away from the capital. They have a different stadium, but because of CONCACAF guidelines and rules regarding which stadiums can host these matches, they're going to be the match will be played in the capital. So I don't know what kind of crowd it's going to be. I'm really, I've never been more like intrigued or stoked. Not never, but it's been a while since I've been more intrigued or stoked or curious about what the atmosphere is going to be like at this game. But either way, I hope they win by many goals, and so that the return leg doesn't have to be that interesting.
So you will be attending.
I will be attending.
So when do you leave? Because are you going to go see the Pumas game?
Yes, I'll be in Mexico City Saturday. Game is on Sunday at noon, high noon, as we know. Under the hot sun at the Estadio Olímpico Universitario, and then I will leave from Mexico City straight Monday to Guatemala City.
Okay. Yes. That will be a definitely interesting experience for you.
Yeah, I'll have a lot of Instagram stories and I'll document it as best I can.
Yes, so we would love to share that, especially we're gonna have to figure out when we're gonna pod throughout these days, but definitely we'll follow you, Louis, and your adventure, especially with CCL this time around.
Yes.
So I guess, are we ready for prediction time versus Cruz Azul?
Sure.
Let's do it. Shout out to Chango Loco, said Leon Campeón. It's too early, Chango Loco, but thanks for the good vibes. So let's go ahead and go to prediction time.
Prediction time!
Prediction time for Monday Night Football, Leon versus Cruz Azul. Louis, what is your prediction?
Yeah, this is a tough one because it's like mercifully Fecha FIFA is over, but it still feels like an eternity before we play again because we're the very, 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 very last game of the jornada. Yeah, this is a tough one. This is a really, really tough one.
It's like the start, well, the little semi-start of the actual start.
Definitely. Probably the most interesting matchup of the jornada, saving the best for last, just like they do on Monday Night Football in the NFL. Well, I wish Mena were available, but if we have the entire squad available except for him, like I expect, it was a pretty uneventful international window for our seleccionados. Like not a lot of them got a ton of playing time, and the ones that did don't have a lot to show for it. So I expect them to come back hungry and ready to play. I expect a good effort from Leon. I think the rest will have done them well. Unlike other international windows, we're afraid they might come out sluggish. I think they're going to come out rested and hungry and ready to play. And that said, Cruz Azul has had a good start to the season, a fairly good start to the season. I'm not particularly stoked about the changes to their roster. I know you're higher on them than I am.
I mean, you've seen how they've done well, and I'm just going based off of that. You know what I mean? Like, as much as they were criticized, they have been.
I also saw them Cruz Azulearla horriblemente against.
I saw that too. I could not believe it, but it was very believable at the same time.
Against Monterrey, yeah. I mean, no matter how many, they can win titles and break curses. I mean, they're never going to shake that reputation about blowing it at the end. I think this one's going to be another 2-1, just like against Pachuca.
Okay.
I think we'll take a 2-0 lead and give one back late. I don't think it's going to be we give up the tie and have to take the lead again. I think we'll score 2 relatively early. They'll get one back late, make it interesting. But I think it's going to be a 2-1. Leon.
2-1 Leon. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that same scoreboard. Because I think games with Cruz Azul, they're always pretty intense. They're always like, entertaining. So I think I'm gonna go with the 3-2 just to have a different scoreboard, and just have lots of goals. I kind of want to see Federico get his goal, 'cause I very much like what I've seen so far. So I'm pretty much assuming that he is going to start right off the bat. Definitely a possibly good game to try and see what Alan might be thinking, after Pumas. But yeah, so I'm going to go with the 3-2. Very active game with lots of goals, and I'm going to say Federico scores his first goal with left.
Yeah, I did see a 3-2 a few years back. Leon Cruz Azul at Glorioso back in Clausura 2016, I think it was. Back and forth. Really, one of the more exciting regular season games that I've seen at home. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if it's that again, more power to them. As long as we're the 3 and not the 2.
Yes, that part. And if it's your 2-1, then at least Cota will not concede more than a goal. So.
I mean, not that Cota needs much motivation to have a good performance. He always has good performances, but I mean, how frustrating must it be for him to he's about to turn 35 and he goes to the selección knowing he's the 4th on the list, so I think he's going to want to come back and not let anything in. Show him what he's made of.
Very frustrating with Mexico, which I still don't know why you take 4 goalies, but that's not the.
Well, okay, I know we're not supposed to talk about this, but it's not just taking 4 keepers. You can take 4 keepers. It's COVID times. You want to take extra players, whatever. That's fine. But don't take 4 keepers over the age of 35. Bring in at least one youngster.
I mean, that's what was criticized.
If only one of them is going to play anyway,
might as well give an opportunity for a youngster to have the experience. I told you.
Yeah, take Jurado or take Gudino.
Acevedo. I mean, just take them.
Of course, Acevedo. I think Acevedo opted not to go. And maybe he would have otherwise, but take one of the other, take Gibran Lahoud, anybody,
Yes.
Yeah, leave Cota at home with his family. He can go visit his family in Mazatlan or something.
You're just leave him at home. Leave him alone.
Well, it's no secret that. I mean, for me, it's a great honor that we have so many seleccionados always, especially for a team like León.
Yeah.
To have there was complaints about Atlas was just campeón and they don't have a single seleccionado anywhere except for Camilo, and León does not have that problem. They're us. I mean, they're not a smaller club, but a club from a smaller provincial place that a lot of what the media likes to ignore whenever they have the opportunity to do so. But they still get a ton of seleccionados. We get a ton of seleccionados, and that's a great honor. But I just always worry that they're just going to go and get hurt.
Well, that's what happened with Preciado with Santos. He's out 5 to 7 months because he got injured. So that's
worst case scenario. That's worst case scenario territory. I love that Tecillo gets to go play and start for Colombia, but I don't care what the Colombian national team does. I care what León does and what he does with them. So, it's always really, really nerve-wracking. So, in that sense, I'm glad Cota didn't play, and I'm glad that Meneses and Davila didn't play. Yes. I mean, I'm sure, for them, it's got to be frustrating having traveled all that way and just to not really do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's always nerve-wracking when our international players go with their international respective team. Like Louis said, we just wanted to come back in one whole person with no injuries. So.
Yeah.
Louis, anything else before we go?
No, I think that's it for now. Monday can't get here soon enough. It's been way, way, way too long.
Way too long. Like you mentioned, we're the very last game of this jornada. It's going to be a long weekend until we get to Monday for our León versus.
And lots of exciting matches and trips coming up. There are my orchestra is supposedly going back to its. Everything is kind of everything could change at a moment's notice just because of COVID. Nothing is set in stone. But they're planning on having just a regular full-time in-person season. So there are going to be a couple trips I'm probably not going to be able to make. Like I'm not anticipating being able to go to Juarez this time or to Aguascalientes against Necaxa. But I will be going to Mazatlan, that's for sure. San Luis, which is the last stadium I have yet to see a game at. So I'm excited for that.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep an eye on you, Louis, and especially coming up in the next week as you will make a trip down to Guatemala City for the
Yeah.
game in PCL.
Yeah, excited for that. Not nervous or scared. I mean, I don't expect it to be atmospherically that much different than going to Mexico City, but
As we know.
but I'm excited for the trip for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll definitely keep tabs on that. Shout out to our other crew members that can't be here. Shout out to Carlos, Javi, who's probably working, and Jose. We held the fort down. We're getting ready for next match. Thank you guys, everybody that joined us via Periscope and YouTube. Let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to follow Louis if you guys want to see everything in regards to his adventures following La Fiera. Don't forget to follow at Club Leon EN for all the English content. If you guys are missing a game, there's definitely live tweeting there that'll keep you updated throughout the match. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you next week on another episode of the Lions Den Podcast.